Welcome back to the No Referees Podcast. I'm your host, Evarist. We bring you another quarantine edition of our show. As always, you can find us on our social media pages at norefereespod and on our new YouTube channel, No Referees Podcast. We're joined by a very, very special guest today, my friend, my brother. He's a head men's basketball coach at Prairie A&M. He's a reigning two-time SWAC Coach of the Year. He swears he is the best player over 50 in America. You can follow him on his team page at PV Men's Hoops and also his athletic page at PVU Panthers. My brother, Byron B. Smith. What up, bro?
How you doing, Evarist?
Man, I'm good, man. What's going on with you, man?
Hey, just trying to stay safe, trying to stay out of the way. Walk slow, talk low so no one will see me. Maybe I can sneak up on somebody.
You are wearing all black, though.
Hey, I am Evarist Anjaka Wukuche.
My brother, it's good to see you, man. And these times right now, this is a sports-based podcast, so we got a lot of things going on in America. So we're going to touch on a few topics today. So I appreciate you taking time out to join us. In these times, being a leader of men, in particular African American men, you being a father of a teenage young man as well. What kind of advice and message are you giving to your kids and people that you mentor on a day-to-day basis in these current times?
Just to pay attention, to be aware, to stay woke, if you will. That's kind of like the slogan that a lot of the young generations using today, stay woke, pay attention to what's going on. So, you can be able to, make the adjustments as need be, to be as safe as you possibly can, but also to share information that may be to help your brother. Each one teach one is kind of the motto that we that we kind of adopted here. I talk to my children about that. I talk to my players about the importance of understanding your environment. Obviously out here at Prairie, we're kind of a little bit of a smaller place, smaller town where the least little thing you do gets noticed. We talk about profiling. I think it's different types of profiling. Obviously with the younger generation, the African-American generation, people are into stigmas and people are into trends and certain dress, certain language, being with your teammates, they always kind of want to be together. So being in automobiles, 3, 4 people, these are the things that you need to be careful of because there's going to be some type of profiling going on. So we talk about a myriad of things, but the main thing is just to be aware, pay attention to the George Floyd situation, the Breonna Taylors, the Trayvon Martins, that it can happen to anybody. I mean, it can happen to you, but just to pay attention, to be able to, again, share experiences, be able to be better when you're in a position to impact, make sure that you're doing that, make sure that you're being positive, make sure that you are trying to make a difference, trying to affect people in a positive way, but really to pay attention right now to the signs of the things that are going on in society right now, to make sure that you're not the one that gets caught up in the situation. And the last thing, to be respectful. If there is a situation involving law enforcement, you get pulled over, always be respectful. Always try to, be a part of the solution. Don't be a part of the problem. Don't get out with an attitude. They ask you to get out. They ask you for your license or whatever. Just be respectful. And because not everyone that's in that uniform wants to cause you hurt, harm, and danger.
Being so close to Houston, Prairie View is right on the outskirts of Houston. We just recently had the George Floyd Memorial in Houston. How has that affected, the community of Prairie View and the people that are around that you see on a day-to-day basis, just with it being so close proximity from George Floyd being from Houston and so many national eyes on Houston in this light?
I think it's unifying us all as a country, whether we want to recognize it, realize it, acknowledge it. I think it's bringing us all closer. I mean, I really do believe that in all nationalities, because African-American people aren't the only ones that face discrimination. There's other ethnic groups that face discrimination. So I think it's bringing our city together, unifying us. I think it's obviously, as I said earlier, our country, because everyone has awakened by this latest tragedy. So I think it's bringing us all closer together, wanting us to listen more, pay attention more, to try to help each other more, educate each other more, maybe touch your brother on the shoulder and say, hey, man, you may not want to do that, man. It could be some severe consequences down the line if you do that. My biggest thing is I'm hopeful that this is a movement, Evarist, and not just a moment. This situation that is going on, 2 months from now, that people just won't go back into their natural habits of doing things. But keep this in mind that this is when things like this happen. I think things like this, and although it's negative, and what actually happened to Mr. Floyd is catastrophic, and my prayers go out to his family for having to deal with this. But what are we going to do now? Now what? Okay, it's happened. People are showing a lot of attention. People are, obviously protesting and peaceful protesting. Hopefully, the memorial was yesterday. Everyone's going out. So what's going to happen now after yesterday? So what's going to happen now? How are we going to react to it, and how are we going to be better, learn from that situation, and be better? So again, my thoughts. Hopefully, it's a movement, not just a moment.
Yeah, that was very articulate, Coach. I know knowing you personally, and we'll get into some of the stuff that some of the reasons how I know you. And I just want to piggyback off something you just said a second ago. As a coach, at a HBCU program, most people just think that HBCU is just all African Americans, but there's so much diversity. There's so much inclusion. In this time and these time frames, what have you learned personally as a coach? Just more about being more inclusive, more diverse, and different things of that nature.
Well, even before being a coach, as a former professional athlete and playing in 6-7 different countries, I've never, ever paid really attention to race. Because the great thing about sports, Evarist, is that it breaks down all racial barriers. You think about it, it brings people from all walks of life to play this great game that we're all blessed to be a part of. Here at an HBCU, people are people. The new generation, and most of the racism that I've experienced has been with the older generation, with the kids, the 29, 21, 22, 18, 19, 20-year-olds. You don't see a lot of that. It's a generation now, and they bond together by athletic apparel, sports teams, music, hip hop. They're just a lot closer group than my group. I'm 50 years old, and it's just a difference right now. So here at Prairie View, we've got all different walks of life, all different nationalities, ethnic groups, and things like that. And they eat together, they walk together, they study together. So, but we want to continue that. We want to increase that, the awareness that this is what we need to do. Maybe that the younger generation can actually impact the older generation. You know what I mean? To maybe not. Stereotype. You judge people by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. The great Dr. Martin Luther King said that, and he stood on that. And that's what this country should readopt, if you will. He said it, but it needs to be implemented from, our older generation, our politicians, lawmakers, things of that nature. But here at Prairie View, these kids are all unified. They're one. We experience very little racism or any type of hate crimes or any types of mimicking or mocking and things like that. Everyone just kind of comes together and they walk down the same path. That's to better themselves, to get an education. If it's athletics, the common goal, when you come into these institutions, to obviously get an education, to have a great athletic experience, and to be able to affect someone in a positive way along your way, while you're here at Prairie View. So here at Prairie View, things are very good. And I like to see the increased numbers of different groups that are coming in. We have a lot of white students here. Like you say, you think HBCU, it's not just for people of color, okay? It's for people that, want to have an opportunity to better themselves and to get a great education. So I love it. I love the environment. I love the spirit. Kids are all on one page, and things work well here at Prairie View for our student athletes and our students.
I appreciate that, Coach. Let's switch gears over to some basketball stuff. Specifically, I want to talk about your journey. You touched on it a little bit. You're a guy, from humble beginnings, Louisiana. You had a pretty prominent basketball career, University of Houston, played overseas. Just talk about Byron Smith, the coach, and the journey you made to get to where you are. You've had a few coaching stops along the way. Just talk about, what's Byron Smith like as a coach and some of your background.
Well, as a man and obviously a coach second, I always have to acknowledge my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, because he's the one that gave me this assignment. And I look at basketball from the time I started. I didn't know it because I really wasn't, fully developed yet. But basketball was given to me by God, and it is my divine assignment. This is the assignment that He's given me to take it and to use it in a positive way, to try to impact others and affect others in a positive way. So that's first and foremost. As a player, I started out, like you say, humble beginnings. I bounced around a little bit. I was battered, but I wasn't broken. You know what I mean? I was bent a lot, but I didn't break. Basketball's taken me all over the world. It's brought me in contact with, obviously, I'm dealing with the host right now, very good friend of mine. That's what brought you and I together, the game of basketball. And it's, again, it breaks down all racial barriers. I mean, when I've been on the basketball court, I've been in some hostile environments, but when you're on the court, it's something that I've dealt with all different types of people, white and international kids. I mean, from, China and South America, Europeans. I mean, all different types. So, that's been a blessing to me, and it's been something that I take very, very serious. And I'm so happy that I've had the opportunity to experience the game, transition over to being a coach. Once again, I'm just a person that just the game of basketball is like a 4x1 race, if you will. I mean, it's like you get the stick, you run 100 yards, you pass it on to the next person. Someone handed the stick to me. God gave me the baton, and I still have it right now. And I'm trying to, nurture it. I'm trying to take it and use it in an impactful way to try to infect others in a positive way. And I want to, when it's time for me to give it up, Evarist, I want to give it back the way that I got it, pure and spotless. And because the game is sacred, we need to treat it that way. So, my coaching philosophy and how I like to do things, I tell these guys, play each game like it's your last. Because it can be taken away from you so quickly. I mean, look at the situation with Kobe Bryant, which was catastrophic, even though his playing career was over, but he still was a basketball guy. And obviously, just one day, he's no longer here. So, I use situations like that to tell our players to play each game like it's your last, appreciate it. It's a privilege, not a right, to play this great game. Always give great effort. You can't always play well, but you can always play hard. Always play like you're appreciative of the opportunity. So those are some of the things that I think that I've become, and I've tried to implement in coaching, is having a great appreciation for it. You know what I mean? And I love coaching. I mean, I obviously love playing a lot more because I think I was a better player than I am a coach. But I still got some time to go, Aaron, so maybe I can.
If anybody knows, that you're the best 50-year-old out there hooping. We all know that.
Absolutely, man. And I keep my phone right next to me, so anybody needs a spot-up shooter that can't play any defense and refuses to pass, give me a call. I'm waiting. But no, Evans, I mean, I could speak for days about the game, how it's impacted my life, how it's helped to shape and mold me into the man that I am today. And again, I'm thankful, and I just want to continue to coach each and every day with great appreciation. I'm an effort coach. Like I say, it's about your effort. It's not always about your talent. You can't predict talent, but you can predict effort. You have control over that. So that's what I try to implement and try to stress to my players each and every day. We're going to play each game very hard. We'll be the hardest playing team every time we step out on the court. May not always be the most glamorous and get the most attention for being an offensive, having offensive excellence, but our effort is going to be top notch no matter who we play and every night that we step out there.
Yeah, I watched a few of your games this year, especially some of your home games online. And I rewatched a few of them on Synergy. Man, y'all get out there, y'all run and y'all gun and y'all fly around. And man, them dudes just play super hard for you.
They do. And that's just kind of like I said, again, the things that you can control on a daily basis is your attitude and your effort. And that's not only in game, in sports, that's in life in general. You know what I mean? So we focus on that, having a great attitude, a great appreciation, and giving great effort each and every day.
So, Coach, let's talk about how I met you. Our introduction to how we met in the basketball scene in Houston. I was a strength coach over at Houston Baptist. I was training Marcus Williams. Shout out to our brother Marcus Williams when he sees this. You were his personal player development coach. You were not just Marcus, but a lot of other player development assignments you had, so to speak, in the Houston area. Talk about just your relationship you had just with players in the Houston metropolitan area, and what makes Houston so good, for basketball talent.
Well, you know what? It's just something that when I finished playing, Evans, I think one of the biggest mistakes a lot of players make when they want to go into coaching, they just go right into it. There's no grace period to kind of separate, because playing and coaching are on opposite ends of the spectrum. I think the one thing that's similar is instincts, and I had so much to learn about, coaching the game. I felt I was a pretty decent player, but I had so much to learn coaching the game. So I felt the best way to help me as a coach is to focus on the development part, because every time that you're a coach, you're going to be known for something, either being X's and O's, development, or recruiting, you know what I mean? And hopefully, you can be adequate at all of those things. But I felt that development was my route, was my path, that was my impact, how I could carve a niche in the game is by working on development stuff. And because I wasn't very athletic as a player, the most athletic guys sometimes are your least skilled guys. And because I never was a very good athlete, the game. I understood the game differently, and footwork and balance and things like that. These are the things that is required to be effective in the game, aside from the talent. So, I just really started to focus on that. And I took on some very, very difficult tasks initially. Some players that didn't have a lot of ability, that weren't very coordinated. It's kind of like a puzzle, putting a puzzle together. I worked with some young guys, at the beginning. And then I just kind of started to realize that this is really what I'm supposed to be doing, because it was a challenge. And then the interesting thing, Evarist, is that, I took a liking to working with bigger players. And I'm a guard, 6'2.5", 6'3", if I stand on my tiptoes. But I started working with bigger players, and that was a challenge. So I wanted to challenge myself. It's just easy for a point guard to work with point guards. It's easy for a power forward to work with power forwards, because basically you're just reiterating the things that you learned. But when you're at a guard and you go and you start working in a totally different position, I think you're really challenged. And that was a desire that I had. So I started working with, bigger players and started helping them develop footwork, balance, and feel, and different things like that. And it just kind of went from there. And then obviously when I started working with our good mutual friend that we share, Marcus Williams, and I would tell anyone this, Evarist, not only you, and I would tell anyone this, he was the best basketball player that I've ever worked with on an individual basis. He's the most talented basketball player that I've ever been associated with at any level, in terms of pros, college, guys on their way. And I've worked with some guys that are in the NBA right now, but that guy right there, he had it all. And another thing about Marcus, he had an unbelievably high IQ. He's one of the smartest people, first and foremost, and basketball players that I've ever worked with. So my job was so easy working with him that he knew most of the things, and he picked up on things so quickly. So I have to give him a lot of credit that he really helped me to create a really good name in the city, because people knew how good he was. Coming out of Arizona, I had a brief stint in the NBA. I felt like he could have been a 10, 12-year guy in the NBA, but obviously, he took a different path, and I think he had an unbelievable career. But that guy right there was special in terms of the players that I've had a chance to work with, was special. But Houston, obviously, with so many great players that played in the NBA, and for a long time, before LA was created, Houston was like the home of all the pros in the summer, because of the summer league and the runs and all the places that you can go and work out, the hills, the tracks, and just, everybody playing pickup basketball all over. Everybody was coming to Houston. But then I guess this whole music thing kind of took off, and athletes now wanting to, double up and be actors and musicians and things like that. Everybody's going out to LA now. But once upon a time, Houston was what LA is today, where all of the pros were coming there. And obviously no state tax, affordable housing, that made a big deal. They made a big difference with a lot of these athletes too. So I just kind of jumped right in. Even before Marcus came along, I just jumped in, and, I was around all these guys. And, and obviously I felt like, maybe Commissioner Stern should have called my name. I mean, God rest his soul. I still think he kind of missed on that one. So I kind of felt like I was an NBA player when I was playing, and then just learning from those guys and watching those guys, how they would do things. So I think I kind of stole a lot of stuff too. Watch guys, what this guy was doing, what this guys were doing. And, obviously John Lucas being around and stuff like that, him bringing in a lot of players to kind of later on, kind of not necessarily watching his workout, but just kind of watching what some of the players were doing and how they carried themselves and things like that. And so I just felt like that was my niche, and I got involved, and and I just developed a little bit of a decent reputation for someone that kind of had a feel. I think anytime you play the game, I think that kind of gives you a little bit of an extra credibility. The fact that you played it, and you played it at a pretty good level, that it's something that you can kind of share with someone else. So, but it's guys like Marcus Williams, like I said, I think that really kind of put me in a really comfortable position that this guy kind of knows what he's doing. Yeah, I owe Marcus a lot. Appreciate you, Marcus. Hope you're watching.
Yeah, shout out to our boy Marcus. We're going to stay right there with Houston real quick. Another one of our mutual friends, Christian Begg, has been involved with the Houston Hoops program out there. And you were involved a lot with a lot of those AAU guys. Just wanted to briefly touch on, the last, since the early 2000s to now, what has changed in the landscape of the AAU scene, specifically in the Houston market? Is it the kids have stayed the same, the parents and people around them have been different, or vice versa? Kind of talk on that real quick.
Yeah, I think without being disrespectful, I think the parent influence back when I was doing it in AAU back in the early 2000, 2003, 2004, 2005, it wasn't enough parent involvement. And I think that's where you kind of started to see a lot of things kind of go awry with kids and kids not getting the right information, people making decisions for kids that maybe weren't in their best interest. And, not to be negative or critical, because I too got accused of doing that. But I think that the individual person that I was involved with AAU, I think he's gone on to do quite well in the NBA. So I think that, the path that we helped him choose, it worked out for him. Nowadays, it's like there's a lot of parent involvement, but I think the focus now is the next level. And I think too many parents now are having their kids skip steps, and the kids aren't developed a lot. I think a lot of kids out of Houston, when they move on to, to college, they're not prepared. I think it's too much parent involvement, wanting to work the kid out or wanting the kid to do this or thinking the kid should be in this camp or the kid should be with this AAU program. And I think sometimes they're forgetting to make the kid work. The kids need to get back in the gym, less in these, I guess, quote unquote, back before the pandemic, all these elite camps and things like that. I don't know if the work ethic is the same with the kid. You know what I mean? They're pretty much, you go in and you watch kids now. I'll give you an example. I work a kid out, and not now, but, years back when I was out of college, more kids are kind of telling you what they want to work on as opposed to going through the workout. You know what I mean? So I think that, the message now is to get to the NBA too quickly. And kids are being identified, too early in 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade as the next LeBron or the next Steph or the next KD or whatever. So I don't know if the kids are putting the time in the effort. The work ethic is not there. That's why the transfer portal is so full in college basketball. A lot of Houston kids are in that transfer portal, because everyone has the one and done mentality. You know what I mean? AAU, hey, you know what? You go to a team, they don't play you the right way. Hey, parents will yank you. Go to the next program, and I think
right.
that becomes something that they carry not only in AAU, it goes on to when they go to college. They go there, they don't get the numbers, they don't get the shots they want. Hey, man, I'm getting ready to transfer. So I think parents nowadays need to be more educated. They need to take their time. They need to, make sure that their kids are, first of all, having fun. And I'm not so sure that a lot of these kids are having fun like they need to, because the game of basketball is fun. And I don't know if the kids are really having fun. It's more of a task and a chore, and maybe this is a means of providing, for my family one day. It becomes a chore. You know what I mean? So I don't know if they're really enjoying it, and they're getting I enjoyed it. When I played coming up as a kid, we didn't even have AAU. That's how old I am. But I had fun. I enjoyed it, man. It was a way to get away from issues and problems and things like that. It brought me joy, and made me smile. It made me feel good about myself, and things like that. But I think now the difference, again, is that back when I was doing it in AAU, it was very little parent involvement. Things were getting crazy. Now so much parent involvement, so much coaching from the stands and things like that. This drives high school coaches crazy. Obviously, college coaches, are a little frustrated with it. But I just think that if the parents can become more educated, be involved. Obviously, you want to be there, support your kid, love your kid, but make sure that they're taking the necessary steps and not skipping steps. I think that the transfer portal will be less full. I think you will have more kids that focus on getting that education, more kids that have a legitimate shot at making the NBA because they respected the process. They put the time in. They worked. More kids need to stay in school a little bit longer. I mean, I think all that's coming from AAU. So I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it definitely has changed from back and when I was in it. It's changed a lot now. But I think that there's room for growth. I think there's room for it to get better. But the parents are going to have to become a little bit more educated about what's going on and putting their kid in a position to have the chance to be successful, as it relates to moving on to college. Because that 4-year period, it's critical. I mean, it's a good chance you're going to meet your wife, good chance you meet people, future employers and things like that. So it's an important time for our kids. But AAU is I think it has its positive, has its negatives. I think it's probably 51-49 from when I was doing it as opposed to now. But I do think that it has a lot of good things that gives kids an opportunity to get out and exercise and do things like that. But I just think that parents need to be a little bit more grounded and not look at the bright light so much too soon.
one of the guys that was a extremely involved parent that I remember from back in our Houston Hoops days when we first met, that didn't skip steps with his son. Now his son is playing at an extremely high level in the NBA. Is Kelly Oubre Sr. I know that he did it the right way. He didn't take any shortcuts with his son. And, talk about that parent involvement. I was always, enamored and always watched how he moved when he had his son in the game. And some people didn't like his method of madness or things of that nature, but he did his stuff the right way. And I know that you were around his team, his son in at that point. You both guys are from, his family, you're from Louisiana, his family from Louisiana. I mean, there's other guys that have come and gone in the program that have great parent involvement, but specifically he stands out for somebody that kind of embodies what you just said.
Yeah, I think that obviously Kelly had a lot of natural talent, a lot of God-given ability, length and size, and was a taller player, but able to play out on the perimeter. So I think, and I felt like, just kind of getting to know him a little bit, not really knowing him, knowing his situation, talking to various people. He just had an insatiable desire to be successful. And I think his dad was seemed like a bit of a disciplinarian from what I heard, and really had him focusing on improvement and getting better and putting him in environments where he can improve and get better. The rankings are important. I mean, it makes you feel good. If somebody says you're the best, I mean, who better be called the best than be called the worst. So I know that's a big part of it. But it seemed like that they focus more on the journey as opposed to the destination. Some people put the destination ahead of the journey, but it's taking those small steps. And if you do that and you work hard and you're committed to it and it's really in your heart to want to do that and you're going to put the time in, I think that the reward will be there. And it seemed like it worked out well for the Oubre family. I'm happy for that young man. He's doing well out in Phoenix, before the pandemic. And I think he's going to have a long, prosperous career ahead of him in the NBA.
Let me take a time out to tell you about my friends over at Soul Lounge, Houston's premier boutique for the latest fashions. Chinatown Market? Check. BBC? They got all that. Adidas? Man, they got all of that stuff too. The swag, the footwear, Yeezys, man, they got everything. No Referees Podcast and Soul Lounge has partnered up to bring you a special offer for listening to this episode. Go online to soulloungehtx.com and enter promo code NORULES to get 20% off your entire purchase. That's No Rules, all one word, all caps. Soul Lounge, live what you love. The pandemic came down. Your team playing at a extremely high level. A lot of momentum going into the SWAC tournament at Birmingham. Had a big win versus Alabama A&M. Ready to make that another good year. I mean, last 2 years, everybody knows you're 41 wins, undefeated at home. So let's talk about what that momentum was when the pandemic came down and you guys couldn't kind of rehash or defend that title and make that another run to the SWA tournament.
Yeah, you're right. I appreciate you acknowledging that. It was a bit bittersweet because I felt like we were kind of coming together as a unit. We'd already, obviously we clinched the championship going into the final week of the season, which made us happy that we were able to repeat. It's hard to do that at any level, but we were able to do that because we stayed consistent, we stayed true to who we were. Once we beat Alabama A&M in the first round game, obviously when we got into Birmingham, was feeling really good about how we were kind of coming together. And we felt really good about our chances to win the tournament again and get back to the NCAA tournament and maybe even go even further, because I felt like after the player of the year in the league, Devontae Patterson, another guy, Gerard Andrews, who could have been player of the year. I thought we had the best two players in the league. And I thought our guard play really was solid. Defensively, we were guarding people. We were really rebounding the basketball. So I think our synergy was really good from our coaching staff to our players. Everybody was on one accord and everybody had the same goal. So I felt really good about that. I guess the disappointing part was that, obviously when the NBA kind of started to shut down and a lot of the Power Fives, the SEC, the Big 12, the ACC, the Pac-12 started canceling the tournament, I was kind of glad. I was hoping that we would as well, because I felt that had we played, the rest of the SWAC tournament, I think it'd been kind of a negative light on us in our conference that, we're risking, people's health or players or kids' health, for financial reasons or whatever the case may be. So I was really kind of glad that when we fell in line with the rest of college basketball, and that we did cancel the SWAC tournament. But I was still hopeful that maybe that, we would just postpone the start of the NCAA tournament. Maybe a couple of weeks had passed and we could still get in there, because I really liked my team, and I really felt that we could get in the NCAA tournament this year. Last year when we got in, obviously we were on an unbelievable run, really hot. I just think the inexperience, Evarist, of being in the NCAA tournament, which anyone can say that's coming from a program at our level, that very difficult to get there first and foremost. But I just think we showed some inexperience once we got in the heat of the battle, and we didn't finish the game against Fairleigh Dickinson like we needed to. I think we had a lot of the players back from last year's squad, so I felt like the experience was there along with the talent. Us getting back into the NCAA tournament, we would be able to get past that first round and move into the second round, and obviously play against a really tough opponent. But that's the beauty of the NCAA tournament. There's always going to be a Cinderella. It's you against that particular team on a neutral court. Records don't matter. Rosters don't necessarily matter as much. It's you against that particular team for 40 minutes. So it's a bit bittersweet. I felt that we had a chance to get back and have another special year. But at the same time, safety first. And I'm glad that we as a conference decided to kind of shut things down. So now we're just living with that what if. I think I felt bad for our seniors that didn't get a chance to finish it off, and they're going to, for the rest of their lives, what if, man, we could have done this, we could have done that. So, you hated to see that happen for those guys. But at 5 years from now, they'll probably be glad that we did do that, because who's to say what could have happened? Someone could have gotten sick, and it could have been a casualty, something catastrophic, someone not, losing their life or whatever from this pandemic. So it made sense, the decision that we made. But, obviously still have a lot of good memories from this year's squad, and a great group of guys. I think several of them are going to move on and have a chance to continue playing. That makes me feel good as a coach that for a lot of them, it wasn't their last game at Prairie View, but they'll have a chance to move on and continue to play the game that they love at the next level.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you, you have a handful of seniors. Your experience is what, probably trumped everything else or any other team in your league, because y'all had already been there, done that. Y'all returning all those guys that came from that Fairleigh Dickinson game and experienced that first championship in the SWAC. So I was going to ask you just what was that conversation like with those handful of seniors when they found, you found out they weren't going to be able to kind of defend their title and make another NCAA run?
Well, the unfortunate thing is that we never really even had that conversation. The conversation that we had was that, hey, you know what, we're going to probably shut down the conference tournament. But I think, just trying to keep them positive, I think we're going to have a chance to, we'll probably be the crown the conference champion. Regular season, obviously, we'd already won it, so we would probably get the bid to move on and play in the NCAA tournament. So we were just keeping our fingers crossed and holding out hopes that we would do that, because we came back to campus. I think we were only here 4 or 5 days, 6 days maybe, and then everything just kind of shut down. And school was postponed. Everybody, went home and things. So, but we still were holding out hope, that the tournament would go on. So, hey, stay ready. Stay ready. We can't practice. We can't do this, but watch what you eat. Watch what you put in your body. Keep your mind focused. Don't do anything. Don't let your guard down. Protect yourself. And we're going to know something here pretty soon. But some of them have yet to, we've talked a little bit about the academic piece and finishing up the semester strong. Everything went remote, from home and things like that. But I'm so proud that we had one of the best semesters, men's basketball academically, that we've had since I've been here. So those guys are real troopers. I mean, they were disappointed, but they didn't let their guard down. They didn't drop the ball. They tackled the academics. We've got two of our young men have graduated. We had 5 seniors, I think. We've got 3 that are going through summer school right now that will get their degree this summer. So I was proud of that. But there's going to come a time here real soon, Evarist, that we're going to get a chance to, Zoom or see these guys in person, go grab a meal and just talk about, how much we appreciate the contribution they made over the past 2 years, even before they move on. Because we're going to have probably 3 or 4 of them that are going to get a contract somewhere and continue playing basketball. A couple of other ones will probably – obviously, they're going to have a great impact on society, either being a teacher, being a coach. I see it in all of them because they approach the game with great respect and they work so hard. I think then their knowledge of the game is really, really, really good. So I can see several of them having a career in the future in coaching. But we're going to do something special for these guys before our next group comes in here in the fall for sure. We owe that much to them for sure.
Right. Yeah, I know everybody doing the graduations on Zoom now, and
Yes,
the virtual graduations and things of that nature. I know that we're shutting down right now, and that's pretty cool that you're gonna be able to do something with those guys, just to show your appreciation and things of that nature. So I want to ask you a question. You mentioned about the incoming guys. One thing about people know about Coach Smith, that Coach Smith has his 7 pillars of his program. My acronym is TP. Like a TP hut, toughness, energy, effort, approach, preparation, execution, enthusiasm. All these things, really, if you really kind of know Byron B. Smith, that's pretty much how he lives his life.
Yeah.
So talk about when you're out there recruiting these guys to come to Prairie View, to buy into the 7 pillars of the program. You're sitting down with their parents in their living room. In your Adidas Climalite uniform, things like what are you saying to the parents and kids, to talk about your program?
Well, the 7 pillars, what you talk about, and we talk about enthusiasm. The great Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "Nothing great can be accomplished without enthusiasm." Having great energy, effort, and toughness. Those are the first 4. And that's at any point in time. That's life. When we talk about the other 3. We talk about preparation, that's mental and physical, which we work on that together. We talk about approach to the game. What are you going to do to get yourself ready? You've got all the information. What are you going to do, in terms of your routine and things like that? And the final piece is execution, when you get out on the court, you know what I mean? And so those are the 7 pillars of our program. But like I say, again, you apply that to life. You know what I mean? You always say when preparation meets opportunity, great things happen. You got to be prepared for every day in life. So we talk to, our kids about that, recruits and current players, and it never changes. It doesn't waver. When you establish a culture, that's what will sustain you. And so now when we go out and we recruit kids, and I'll tell people this all the time, I get calls all the time, and I tell them all the time, kids can play, but can they play at Prairie View? We do things a different way here. It takes a different type of kid mentally, because you're going to have to sacrifice a lot, first and foremost, because, what we sell out to the defense more than anything. My deal is if you can play defense here at Prairie View, it's my duty, to be able to allow you to have freedom and to play freely on offense, because we put so much focus and emphasis on defense. We're ranked number 7 in the nation, Evarist, at creating turnovers. That's in the nation. It's not many teams at the Southland and the SWAC and the MEAC, get a national ranking. You know what I mean? And, we were in the top 10 at 3-point percentage defense. You know what I mean? So defense is, a lot of people talk about it. A lot of coaches talk about it, but we really attack it. You know what I mean? So, that's our culture, those 7 pillars. That's our culture. And, we want to bring in young men that want to come in, that want to add, come in and have get an education, like we say, and have a great basketball experience. Our culture is set. We're very selective about who we recruit. We're not desperate for players. Our phone rings all the time. We get emails all the time. And if there's a kid that we don't get on the front end, we keep the relationship. There's a good chance that he may go to A&M or go to Baylor or go to Houston. Things may not work out for whatever reason, but the relationship is there. They remember, the things that we talked about in recruiting, because of what we talk about, I think it's pretty profound. We get kids to think outside the box, to get you in unbelievable shape, to go beyond what you think that you can do. That you want your Tuesday to be better than your Monday, your Wednesday to be better than your Tuesday, your Thursday to be better than your Wednesday, your Friday to be better than your Thursday, your Saturday to be better than your Friday, your Sunday to be better than your Saturday. It's like what Kobe Bryant used to always say. He didn't compete against necessarily you, Everett. He competed against his last performance. And you think about that. You're competing against your last, like that old saying, you're only good as your last performance, but you're trying to outdo your last performance, be it in practice, be it in games and things like that. And if you have that mentality and that attitude, you never get complacent. And I always say this, when you run the sprint, Everest, I always tell guys, man, you know what? Don't look at the guy running next to you, okay? Because he may not want it the way you want it. He may not love the game the way you love it. You're competing against other people. You're competing against your last performance. And if you have that mentality, you're going to always be, full throttle in 5th gear all the time. So, again, that's our culture. We talk to everyone about that. We're always going to be honest, with parents. We're always going to be honest with the players. We're always going to stress those pillars. And And again, Evarist, I don't know. I just think it works for us. I mean, we have had a little bit of success over the last 3 years, and back-to-back champions. And the goal this year is to try to go for a three-peat. Only a few teams have been able to do that. It's not going to be easy, but we're definitely shooting for it for sure. Right.
Well, I'm rooting with y'all. I'm riding with that purple and gold all the way down to Birmingham. So yeah, you're a fan of me. If you would have ended up at Sisters of the Blind or wherever, I would have been rocking right. So I got a question for you, just in regards to recruiting. When you're going out and you're sitting, you're recruiting, and you're talking to these parents, and some people around the country may think that HBCU athletics is kind of almost like, I don't want to say niche, but like a subset of NCAA athletics.
Right.
So when you're talking to these kids and these parents and these high school coaches and these AAU coaches and things of that nature, how do you get them to see the value of an HBCU athletic program? And, what are they saying to you that you would like, think about this instead of that?
Well, I mean, obviously there's stigmas everywhere, and we deal with them all the time. And, in recruiting, writers, media people and things like that, I get all these questions all the time about what's it like, I mean, they sometimes act as if you're, coaching animals. It's basketball. The court's 94 by 52. The baskets are 10 feet. It's not AAU when we travel. It's not 5-6 to a room. You get your roommate. I mean, it's basketball. You look at our schedule that we play. We look at our schedule that we play. We're playing some of the top teams in the country. We've got the nation's respect. I mean, when you start talking about national rankings and things like that, defensively and things like that, I've got so many emails and so many text messages from coaches that we face that say, man, you get your kids to play so hard. You guys play the right way. So I know that we're on, if you will, in terms of the respect and the reception that we get from coaches around the
teams don't want to play y'all now when y'all pick up the phone looking for them games.
It's difficult. It's really difficult. And then, you go out and you talk to parents and you talk to other coaches and things like that of high schools and things of that nature. And again, you say, hey, you know what? This is a place that an HBCU is so much history, with HBCUs, and you're getting an education within an education, about a lot of social issues and things like that. I mean, that's what to me what HBCUs provide. HBCUs are really here because of the systemic racism that we're talking about. If you think about it, I mean, it's because there was a time that, African Americans weren't allowed to go to the University of Texas. And that's how you know. And
HBCUs had cutting of funding back in the day, too.
Absolutely. And that's how I think the Thurgood Marshall School of Law was even created, because there was an African American gentleman that wanted to go to law school at the University of Texas, if I've got my history and my story correct. So, I mean, there's an education within an education. But even beyond that, the social issues and the social things that HBCUs, kind of present in terms of your thinking, again, how we run our program here. I haven't been to every HBCU. I don't know how they run their programs in other places, but I know the places that I've been, University of Houston as a coach, Texas A&M as a coach, and things like that, and all my experiences in playing overseas and things like that, we run our program on par with everyone else that's the Power Fives, if you will, because I've been there. I understand. I've seen how it's supposed to be run. So, it's more about just educating people, getting them to come on campus. One thing, if they come on this campus, I mean, they got their camera phone out taking pictures at the nice.
Y'all got some amazing facilities over there. I did some research. I'm like, man, y'all welcome center is amazing.
Yeah,
y'all football field, y'all arena. 10,000 seats. It's so you would never think that a small city. And also people don't know that Prairie View is the second oldest public school in the whole state of Texas. Out of 23 Division I programs and a whole host of other universities out there. That when I did some research and I've been to Prairie a few times, just to see these facilities y'all have are high major. High major facilities. Like you said, any kid, you get a kid on campus. Yeah, it's not that far from Houston. I mean, you pretty much drive up. You pass the outlet mall. You pretty much at Prairie View. They should be good from there.
They are, and we definitely sell all that. We use all of that to get them to the campus. And here's the deal: once we feel like we get them on campus, Evarist, we got more than a 80% chance of getting them. Obviously, depending on who's recruiting them. And obviously, we're very smart with our recruiting. If this kid tells us that, he's got U of H and he's got A&M, he's got – well, it's not that we're afraid or feel inferior. We just feel like, there's some things that are there because Prairie is still on the rise. And we haven't arrived yet. These other institutions have arrived. And so they probably deserved, based off of what has happened in the past, to be able to get that young man. But again, once we get them on campus, it becomes a different conversation. We feel like it's ours to lose and not theirs, and theirs to win over us once we get them on campus. So we got a lot of good things in place here. We feel really good about who we are, and it's the message that we send as our staff. We got a very experienced staff, a bunch of smart guys that have been some other places. So we feel like not only does Prairie provide them the opportunity to get a great education in the classroom, it's a great basketball education and experience with a chance to win each and every year and have a chance to get to that NCAA tournament. So we cover a lot of the bases, Evarist. We feel very confident, again, that we're not recruiting against, some of the other schools and things like that. But we feel really good that we can offer a lot of the same things these other institutions offer in terms of great education and great basketball experience.
So I got a question just about recruiting to HBCU. Recently, there was one of the top 50 players in the program in the country. Mikey Williams has some HBCUs in his top 5. Right. What do you think about just players? I don't want to say bringing back, but these top-notch players, these blue chip athletes, going to HBCUs instead of the big-time programs. I just want to get your thoughts and takes on just if you can land these top. If Prairie was in the top 5 of somebody like him or somebody like a Zion, these kind of guys, what would that do for just HBCU athletics by and large?
Again, here's a question I have for everyone that's listening, and is that Mikey Williams' interest in HBCUs? Is that his interest, or is that the people that are surrounding him? Is that a movement, or is that a moment? Because here's my question: I'm not gonna focus on Mikey Williams right now in June 10th, 2020. I'm going to pay attention and listen to Mikey Williams on June 10th, 2021. And if he's still talking HBCU 1 year removed, I think I probably would be feet first. I want a part of that. But I think right now, with all of the social justice issues and the things going on with George Floyd, I just think right now people are really excited and they're very, how would I say, they're very, 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 very shaken up a little bit right now. And I think maybe this is a lot of emotion that's really speaking as opposed to, true feelings. I think that an HBCU can provide Mikey Williams with the same experience that some of these quote-unquote Power Fives can, because the thing about it is going to give him an opportunity to showcase his skills and his talents. And there's very, very good players in our league. I'm not saying that there's Zions and Kevin Durant's, in the past, those type of guys in our league, but we've got very, 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 very good basketball players that can play in a lot of places. Devontae Patterson, the kid we had this year, played for us, player of the year in the league, can play in a lot of places in America. But because of some extenuating circumstances, that he didn't get a chance to do that. But I think that I would really take this seriously, like I say, when a kid commits. When a kid commits to not a kid that's 2 years removed from graduation, but a top 50 player, top 20 player that's going into a senior year. To commit to an HBCU, I'll be a believer. Because, again, the collective bargaining agreement, which is kind of going a little bit deeper into this thing, Evarist, is getting ready to come up again. And I really do believe that the Mikey Williamses of the world will be able to go have a direct pathway into the NBA. I think they're going to open that up again. There might be some stipulations added to it. But with all this new stuff coming on, the overseas market that they're taking in this, the NBA basketball Borders Without Borders program that are placing these kids over in Australia and paying them certain amounts of money to go over there to help their league. This new G League deal that's going on with the Jalen Greens, the Isaiah Todds, of the world. A lot of these kids are taking that path, getting $250,000, $500,000 contracts and things like that. I'm not sure if Mr. Williams is going to go anywhere near a college campus by the time he comes out. But that remains to be seen. But I think it can help. I think that at some point in time, I don't know if it's going to be Mikey Williams, but I think at some point in time there's a kid that's going to go directly to an HBCU. Worst case scenario, if he transfers from a Power 5 to an HBCU, I think that would have just equal importance and significance. So and the jury's still out a little bit. like I said again, I'm gonna see what Mr. Williams' comments and his vibe and his climate and temperature is 12 months from now, if he's still feeling the same way post all this stuff that's going on in our society right now with the injustices and the social issues that we're dealing with right now.
He came with those comments. I saw those comments, and I was like, "Man, he really, is going to try to make a difference." Because there was already some talk about, should black players go to HBCUs before this George Floyd situation,
right.
And then, how you said, now everybody is a little bit on edge and sensitive about it. It could be just a moment, not a movement. So we'll see. 2021. Right. We'll reconvene then and talk about it then. So one of the questions that we ask all of our guests that come on the No Referees podcast, our slogan is no text, no rules, no whistles. And so everything here is unpenalized. So we always ask our guests, what was the very first time you had an interaction with a referee? If you had a technical foul call, what was your first technical foul call? And or when you were a young guy, give me the first interaction you had with a referee, be it a good interaction or a bad interaction.
I've actually done some reffing myself, and that's a pretty daunting task. And you got to have some thick skin, and even the toughest of guys, have that sensitivity in them when people kind of challenge you. Because a lot of times when you're reffing the game, your manhood is challenged. It's not your skills as a ref, your manhood. Like, man, who you think you talk? You think you're talking to, that type of deal. So I've always had respect, for refs. And I tell my players all the time, Evarist, I think the player that I saw that dealt with refs the best was Sam Cassell. I love Sam. Competed against Sam a lot, in open runs and, back in the summer leagues in Houston and stuff like that. But he always would talk to a ref, no matter what it was about. He was mad or what. He always had a smile, and he always kind of finished it with a pat, on the back to that referee. So I tried to incorporate that myself, as a coach. It didn't work out too well before I got a technical foul, but I always try to educate my players as to how to deal with the refs. But for me personally, I've never used poor language with refs because I do respect men. I do respect professions. I do respect people that do something for a living and stuff like that. May not always agree with the calls that they make and things like that. But here's what I would always say. Hey, you know what? Especially when it's Power 5 games and traveling faraway places and stuff like that. Say, hey, man, it's the kids. It's the kids. Give the kids an opportunity. Let them compete. Don't let me impact your decision. Don't let me impair your vision. You're paying attention to me. Maybe something going out there on the court. Let the kids settle it. We came way this far. Just give the kids a chance to compete. But I haven't gotten a lot of technicals. I've gotten more warnings ever since I've gotten actual technical fouls.
What was that first technical you got as a head coach?
I think the first technical I got as a head coach at the University of Wisconsin. It was very cold up there. Obviously, it's always cold. The arena's cold. They were very good. I think they had Kaminsky and Sam Decker, 2 first-round picks. I think that was my first year, and they were kind of putting it on us pretty good. And I just say, man, you know what? Chances of us winning not very good. Just let me go ahead and just say what I want to say. I don't think it was a curse word. I just said, man, you should be ashamed of yourself. You really should be ashamed of yourself. And he wasn't having it. He turned around and he popped me. I'll tell you something else too. Referees, they share information. They share information with each other. Well, hey, you know what I got? Man, we got that hot head from Prairie tonight, Smith. You got to get, and you can just tell because it could be the least little thing at the beginning of the game. Hey, not gonna put up with that tonight. When I hear that, I know I better stay calm.
You're in for a long night if you're something like that.
Long night. But you know what? I think that for the most part we've gotten a fair whistle. I think they've allowed the kids to play because I think they do appreciate the effort the kids put forth, and I don't think they're against anybody. But obviously, people feel that Duke, you're supposed to lose Duke by 40. Well, maybe we gonna go in and maybe who knows? It could go down to the last possession, but just let us settle it. We played Arizona State this past year. I mean, it was a lot of talk on Pac-12 Network that maybe that it was some questionable calls and things like that because it was a 5, 6, 7 point ball game kind of back and forth. I felt like we really could have had a chance to win it. But I think we get a fair whistle for the most part. But I give refs a hard time, but it's usually with a smile and a pat on the back, like appreciate what you're doing. And a lot of times they reciprocate that.
The most people don't know when a basketball coach sits down and do your pregame notes and all that kind of stuff. You see the name of the refs that you get. So you know this how you say the referees talk amongst themselves. The coaches, y'all talk amongst yourself. Y'all know if y'all getting John Doe referee or Jane Doe referee, y'all know it's going to be y'all in for a long night with the whistle or we're going to get a fair shake. So you know that going into before the game even starts.
Absolutely, we do. And, there's certain guys that, we get and we'll talk to our players and say, hey, you know what? Hey, don't say anything to the ref because you know what? These guys have a really good track record. These guys are here for a reason. This is probably the best ref in our league, reputation-wise. But I never talk about, man, this guy's going to, do this to you or you're going to get a bad whistle because you don't want to get them something. They want them going to the game negative and having that defense, like, oh, man, that wasn't a foul. And, man, I knew you were going to do this. And the refs talk to the players before the games a lot of times too. So I think the referees more for the coaches to, kind of say, well, hey, man, I may need to watch how I ask questions tonight or just kind of watch my bench decorum is going to be watched tonight. You know what I mean? Because they don't want assistant coaches to be up a lot. I mean, that's one of the big things in college basketball. And it's hard because our assistants, they do the scouting report. So they, they're going to know something that I'm not going to know as a head coach. They jump up and say, hey, number 22 is a shooter, get out on him and stuff. And they'll come, hey, you tell you got to sit down and stuff like that. So, those become problems for our bench is that they don't want our guys to be up a lot. And we got a spirited coaching staff. They like to be up and they like to get in the game and like to encourage. And our players feed off of that. When they see a dead bench, then sometimes it affects their performance. It affects their energy. When they see a coach up, because I don't sit down Evarist during the game at all. I don't sit down to start the game. If we're up by 20, down by 20, I'm going to be up the whole time because I think my players look over there and they get used to that, and I think it helps them. But for the most part, I think my time with the referees has been pretty positive. I think that if you ask them to a man, they'll probably chuckle when you bring my name up. Smith, he's all right. I think you get that. Yeah, but I will work them, but respect them.
Overseas Basketball Connection is an app and platform that connects the pro basketball player to the pro basketball team without having an agent, keeping them coins in your pocket. Normally, when a player wants to play pro, they go hire an agent, sit on their couch, and hope the agent's out there working hard for them, not knowing if the agent's putting in that work, contacting teams, or putting them on the back burner. With OBC, we give the player the power to have their career in the palm of their hands. With our app, players can check out live openings from teams around the world and send their game film and stats straight to the team in seconds with the push of a button, cutting out the middleman agent. No Referees Podcast and OBC have teamed up to bring you an exclusive offer. For the month of June, you'll get to sign up for free. Tell all your Hooper friends, your sons, daughters, cousins, it doesn't get any easier to live out your dreams with OBC. Overseas Basketball Connection, #1 source for players to play basketball overseas.
Coach, you just mentioned your assistant coach, and that's actually the thing I want to talk to you about because before you got the opportunity, you were blessed by this opportunity to be the head coach here. You were a long-time assistant coach. Actually, before you were a head coach, most people probably don't know this, you were a head coach for the Harlem Globetrotters for a cup of coffee. So talk about just that being an assistant coach to a head coach. Most people think that it's the difference between an assistant and a head coach is 6 inches between the chair. So talk about just what it's like. You've been an assistant. You talk about the bench energy or that energy from your coaching staff to now being a head coach, and also piggybacking on that. What is it like? What does it mean to you to be a head coach in this institution at D1?
Well, the thing about it as an assistant, everybody loves the assistant coaches with the players. And because, and then as an assistant, you make suggestions, And so it kind of gives you a bit of a safety net. You don't make the decision, you make a suggestion. You're not going to lose your job by making a suggestion, unless you're working for the wrong guy. But you can kind of lose your job based off the decisions, and making those final calls and things like that. So you're close, but it's miles away. In terms of being an assistant, being a head. I don't care how involved you are as an assistant. A lot of assistant coaches run a lot of programs in terms of, not on court decisions, but just in terms of, scheduling and recruiting and just, how they go about their business and things like that. There's some trusted assistants that are close to being head coaches. But even with that, it's still miles away from when you make that leap over to sitting in the first chair because everything's on you. Everything's on you. You're ultimately responsible. I don't care how much you as an assistant, like I say, you make decisions. The head coach is, he's the person you live and die with that. You win or you lose as the head coach. So, my time as an assistant coach, I was fortunate here at Prairie View not to necessarily make decisions, but I helped with a lot of the implementation of the practices, a lot of the development stuff, just our identity and things like that, because I was preparing myself to be a head coach. I didn't know I'd get the opportunity here, but I was preparing myself to be a head coach somewhere. So I was fortunate to work for a guy that allowed me leeway to be able to, sometimes have some free reign and, not necessarily control practices, but, the development is such a big part of it. I did all the skill work here from guards, bigs, wings, and people get used to hearing your voice. So you get a lot of eye contact from the players. When you stand up and you say something, they're respectful to the head coach because he makes the final call. But, things that we went over in practice and things like that. So, I got a lot of on-the-job experience in being an assistant. And if you're fortunate as an assistant to work for someone that give you that leeway, then I think that's a nice segue into becoming your own boss and gives you an opportunity to, even though it's still different, you still got a lot to learn as a head coach as opposed to being an assistant coach, but I think it does help prepare you the more involvement you have, as opposed to a lot of assistant coaches are just recruiters. They have no input in practice. They're not there a lot of times. They've got no say. So they don't do scouting report. Just bring me good players and we'll take care of the rest. Get me the players, I'm going to coach them. So you don't want to be in that situation very long in your career because it doesn't prepare you for, that big seat. And for me here at Prairie, it's been a blessing to be the head coach here. I'm so thankful each and every day to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, for giving me the opportunity. I felt that I had a future in this business. Sometimes, the opportunity is the most difficult part of this business. It's not the job itself. It's getting the opportunity to showcase your skills and your talents. And Prairie View has given me an opportunity to be one of few of 341 Division I schools. I am a head coach. And that's hard to break into this fraternity. Some guys never get this opportunity. I've been blessed to be able to not only to have some success in being a head coach, but just have an opportunity to be a head coach. So I'm thankful. I don't take it for granted. I don't take it lightly. I appreciate it. I try to be better each and every day. I'm continuing to try to improve to make this program, sustain this program success that we've had, and even take it to another level to where we can be in the conversation with the Gonzagas and the St. Mary's and the Butlers and the Wichita States, the same way they kind of came up, that, that we're trying to do that same thing. That it's not just a moment. This is the movement, the Panther movement, that we're going to continue to be. We're going to continue to be one of the mid-range and pioneers of college basketball. That's what we're trying to be.
I can see y'all being like he said, like the Loyola of,
Chicago, absolutely,
of the mid-major program.
Absolutely.
So stay right there with coaching. Coach, do you ever feel like a HBCU can be a quote unquote destination job? I know that the late great Eddie Robinson, made the football program at Grambling almost like a destination job. A lot of coaches wanted that job. So I just wanted to ask, is there ever a point where you feel like an HBCU program will be considered a quote unquote destination job?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's important to two things to know whose you are and who you are. You understand what I'm saying? So I think that, coaches aspire to work, to be a head coach anywhere. It's just something to be said to be in the head. It's like, you've accomplished a goal. So I think that there's coaches that do aspire to be, at this level. Because I think the one thing about it, if you start out, coaching, at a mid-major, at a Prairie, at a Texas, at an HBU, at a Stephen F. Austin, I think that there's still, levels to go. I think it keeps you sharp. I think it keeps you motivated. I think it keeps you hungry, humble, but hungry, as opposed to starting out at 28, 29 years old, 30 years old, being a head coach at a Duke or somewhere like that. So, where else is there for you to go from there? You understand what I'm saying? So I do think that it's a destination and I think that you get a lot of attention because you're dealing with a lot of obstacles. I don't know if coaches that, start out at the quote unquote higher level, would necessarily, as a head coach, start at a higher level would want to, go down, if you will. But I do think for high school coaches, possibly AAU coaches, and high major Division I assistant coaches, I definitely could see Prairie View in particular. I can't speak for many other HBCU, but Prairie View in particular, because of the the resources that we have here, the facilities that we have here, I could easily see them looking at it as a destination job, because I think we got a lot to offer here, just in terms of the total collegiate experience here on campus, and just the educational piece, and again, the nice facilities, and just the success that we're having now. Hopefully I'll be here for a long time, but I think after I leave, I definitely think this job will garner a lot of interest from coaches from all around. But I think that's an interesting question. I don't know if someone is coaching at, New Mexico State, maybe a UTEP would say, hey, you know what, I like it here, but man, I really want that challenge of working at HBCU, because it just offers challenges each and every day.
So, Coach, everybody knows Houston. You're a Houston guy. We hear about the Breakfast Club. We hear about all these different restaurants down in Houston. Anybody who knows you you love the Turkey Hut. What is it about that place that you just love going to, and what makes it such a Houston staple?
Well, first of all, I know the owner, Nakia. I can't remember Nakia's last name. She actually is a U of H girl. She went to U of H. I didn't go to school with her, but I started my coaching career around the time that she was in school over there as a basketball player. And I didn't know that she was involved with it. But obviously, once I started doing more research, I realized that. And I just heard so much about it. And, people like the Breakfast Club, people started to gravitate towards that place. And so I just took my lady friend there once. And the food was just so good. And we went one more time. And then obviously, when we went in to play Texas Southern, our team, we took our team there because, just wanted to kind of do something nice and support, local Black businesses, but also give our kids an opportunity to have a good meal. And just a lot of people that I would see there that eating there, I kind of knew. So it just kind of became like a familiar place. Can't eat there a whole lot because, it's very, very good food and a lot of calories in that good food. So I try to watch my weight, but definitely a place we like to go to every now and again because it's good people, good vibe, and really good food.
Cool. I've never tried it, but next time I'm in Houston, I'm about to try it out.
Yeah, you know what, Evarist, I'm really proud of you and your evolution, not only as a strength and conditioning coach. Seems like you're venturing out doing some different things. I think there's some impactful things. I've enjoyed my time here. I enjoy you as a person. Always been good to me and been helpful to me, and always try to help me in any way that you can. Hopefully you feel the same way about me, that the feeling is mutual and reciprocated. But continue to do positive things. Being a visionary. Hopefully we'll see you on ESPN. They'll pick up your podcast one day and get you on ESPN. I can put on one of my flashy suits and come on and really make you look good as being one of your guests on the great podcast that you're hosting. I'm really proud of you and continue success moving forward with this podcast.
Well, I appreciate that. Appreciate our brother, Coach Byron Smith, coming on the podcast today, sharing some stories, sharing some good quality things, giving us the insight of HBCUs and HBCU athletics and the momentum of this program has moving forward. Everyone, please go follow his basketball team on social media at PV Men's Hoops and follow the athletic program at PVAMU Panthers. That's my brother, my friend of the family, Byron Smith. Thank you, sir.
My pleasure. Appreciate you, Evarist.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the No Referees Podcast. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button wherever you're listening to this show, and rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. And don't forget to follow us on social media at norefereespod. Till the next episode, we out.